Hey everyone, this is Leanne from Of Love and Chip Lab and the founder of Sublimation graphics and tutorials. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss out on any new videos. Tonight I am excited to show you the fold over button on waffle towel from Single J's Sublimation. This is a new twist on the traditional button on towel for your kitchen that can be attached to the refrigerator handle or the stove handle and is very popular among the older generation. When my grandmother found out that these towels were available and I had gotten a few different colors in, she was more than a little excited. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the product and we'll talk about some of the things to consider when you are sublimating an item like this. And we'll go ahead and set up a quick design and get that to print on our Epson SureColor F570 Pro sublimation printer. Let's go ahead, turn things around and get started. Here is a look at our button-on waffle weave towel from Single J's Sublimation. Now, normally I recommend selling waffle towels in sets of 2 or 3, but one like this can actually be sold by itself. This preference for one that buttons on is very popular among the older generation and has started regaining popularity in recent years. I know that I really enjoy having these on my oven or on my refrigerator handles, just as something that's easy and convenient to grab or as a decoration. Now, these are absorbent. They are this waffle weave polyester on the bottom half. And these are actually available in a whole bunch of colors on Single J's Sublimation's website. So I got the light gray as something that was suitable for the spring season since I'm making this for my grandma's Florida home. But they also have a variety of other pastel colors like blue and I think pink. And then they also have some buffalo plaid colors in black, red, and green that are perfect for the fall and winter holidays. So if you're already starting to plan ahead for that upcoming holiday season for items that you want to gift or you want to sell, definitely consider those. They are my favorite. I love all things buffalo plaid. So with an item like this, we can really print in as much space as we can get flat. So in theory, if you wanted to do a border-based design, you could do all of this up to about here and successfully get it pressed, and have it be flattened on your press. That's the main thing that you're looking for. You're looking to make sure that stitching or folds, or in this case, the gather, isn't impacting your printing. Now you can also just do your design in this middle area since it does naturally fold that way, and it puts the focus on that middle section. So depending on what you want to do, you can base your measurements off of that. I am going to focus mine on this middle section, and I'm going to try and do a pretty sizable design. So I'm going to go ahead and measure that. So from one edge of the fold to the other, we're looking at about 7.5 inches. And then from our top down, we're looking at 10.25. Now, whenever I'm doing a design on something like this, I always try and visualize how big I think it should be. So with that in mind, if I'm thinking about this hanging on the refrigerator handle or the oven handle, I'm probably thinking my design should be no more than 6 inches tall. That way it can center really nicely and have a little border, better for the aesthetics. And I could probably do 6 inches wide, but I might try and do 5. So like 5 or 6 by 7 inches is generally what I'm looking for my size for something like this. Luckily I have ample waffle towel designs, so we'll be able to plug one of those in Affinity Designer and set it up for this. Let's head on over to our computer and get started. We are going to set up our document to print in Affinity Designer. I'm using version 2 today, but whether you're using version 1, version 2, the Mac version, or the Windows version, the steps are all going to be the same. If you are interested in learning everything there is to know about Affinity Designer or Affinity Photo for your sublimation, white toner, or other craft printing based business, check out the Affinity Designer and Affinity Photo digital graphic design masterclasses for sublimation. They are linked in the video description as well as our advanced courses. You can use the code SUBTHAT to save $30. Each course includes one-on-one email support. A progressive learning format is incorporated into our original courses to ensure your success. And there's opportunities to win prizes along with fun design challenges to keep you motivated. You'll find all of that information and more in the video description. We're going to start by opening up our document by coming to File and New or selecting New Document. You want to select a page size that is that size that you plan on printing on. In this case, I'm going to be choosing a letter size page. I'm going to come down to my color panel or my color tab, and I want to select transparent background. That's personal preference. You don't have to do that. But you do want to make sure that your color format is set to RGB/8 if you are printing for sublimation. The newest color profile for RGB/8 format is this sRGB IEC 61966-2.1. If you are using a Mac, you may benefit from using the Adobe RGB 1998. This is the previous color profile. Otherwise, it doesn't matter what printer or ink you're using. The most current profile is this one here. This is what you should be using for your document setup. A lot of color issues come from inaccurate settings in document setup or upon print. Your document setup is universal. Your print settings, where you may apply certain types of adjustments for how your printer translates the information and prints it, that is all relative to your printer and the ink that you are using. That's also where you would install and select an ICC profile. So all of that stuff is underneath printer properties. I am using my Epson SureColor F570 Pro from Johnson's Plastics Plus today, and this printer is ready to go for sublimation out of the box. It requires no special modifications or color corrections. The colors look beautiful every time I've used it. Wildly impressed with this printer, and highly recommend it over choosing an aftermarket printer and dealing with the many color issues that we've been seeing over the last 2 years from aftermarket ink and printers. I'm also going to click on the margins tab, and I'm just going to get rid of that blue line margin because I don't like it. It's annoying. If you are using version 1 of Affinity Designer, your document setup panel does look a little bit different. Instead of having a list over to the left, you will have all of these options on separate tabs with icons tiled through the middle. Your options here for layout, color, etc. are going to be located in the right sidebar. That is on version 1. If you need a good visual for version 1, check out any of our older sublimation tutorials. When you have everything set, go ahead and click Create to open your document. Our only step here is to import our graphic that we plan on printing and size it. We'll do this by selecting the Place Image tool, which is this icon in the tool panel that looks like a photograph. I am selecting a clip art from Creative Fabrica. You can find this linked in the video description as well. This was just a cute clip art set that would be perfect for these towels, which I am making for my grandmother. She selected this graphic with the tulips and the yellow flowers, maybe daffodils, in the little wagon. So once you select your graphic from your File Explorer, you will see this down arrow with a puddle. When you see that, simply click and drag to resize the graphic on your document. Now, one of the things I always look for right away is if there's a lot of dead space. So all of this that's around these edges, that's dead space. You can very quickly resolve that extra dead space by right-clicking and choosing Rasterize. You'll notice it will get rid of all of that dead space and bring your boundary box right to the edges of your graphic, which makes it much easier for you to size it accordingly. We want to always be mindful that we have sized the graphic already to a larger size, because once you hit that rasterize option, it's going to adjust the DPI or the resolution quality of your graphic to the size that you have it. You can't increase resolution, so therefore you don't want to have this be this big when you rasterize it and then go to resize it, because you're likely to get pixelization. So I already have this almost as big as I needed it. That was just a simple extra step. We decided that on our towel, our space that we could fill was roughly 5 inches by 7 inches. So I'm going to try and adjust this somewhere in that range. You want to come to your transform panel, which is located in the bottom right of the software. We are going to make sure that we lock our aspect ratio so that we don't disproportionately resize our graphic. In Affinity Designer version 2, when it is unlocked, it looks like this broken link, and when it's locked, it looks like 3 links. If you are using Affinity Designer version 1, this icon looks like a figure 8 or an infinity symbol when it is unlocked, and when it is locked, it's the symbol with 2 little arms or brackets coming off of it to these 2 boxes. So our max height was 7 inches. Our max width was like 5 or so. I'm going to adjust the width in this case just because of the layout of our towel. So I'm going to go ahead and enter 5 there and resize it. So this design is a little bit more square. So with that in mind, I think I'm actually going to bump this up to 5.5, give myself a little bit of wiggle room there. And yeah, that's really it. Once you are satisfied with the size, I like to center things on the page. Not everyone does. That's just my personal preference. You'll see those red and green snap-in guides when it is centered. If you don't see them, make sure that your magnet icon is selected up here at the top. Once you've done that, you are ready to print. Come to File, Print, choose your printer from your drop-down menu, and then select Properties. This is where you would make any adjustments that you need to make for your specific printer. I am using the Epson SureColor F570 Pro, so the only thing that I need to double check or change is the source of my paper. I want to tell the printer whether I'm using the roll feeder or if I'm using pre-cut sheets. So I am using sheets, so I already have this set to the auto sheet feeder, and my paper size is set as well. Underneath the media type, I've selected the general purpose textile because that is what we're printing on today. The options here between textile and rigid are going to dictate to the printer any type of modifications it needs to make to how it prints. So think of this like a preset. If you have had any of the Epson EcoTank or Workforce printers that you have converted for sublimation, you likely had some presets that you created for your printer so that you always had them as reference to dictate how it was going to print for different substrates. For example, I had one for photo printing. I had a preset for graphics that had a lot of gray, and then I had my general printing setting, and it had different color correction options and whatnot because I needed that with an aftermarket printer and ink. You don't need any of that with the Sublimation ready printers, including the Sawgrass printers, but you do want to make sure that you select the correct option that you're printing on so that any settings that it is pre-programmed with are going to go into effect. Over on the layout tab, you can double check to make sure mirror image is selected. We do want to mirror our image for this project. If you are someone who prefers print preview, there's a checkout option right here and you can manage that. When you're all set, click OK, and it will send it off to print. We are over here on Blue, the Fusion IQ, our wonderful heat press. And this is always a little bit of a tricky type of substrate because we don't want to hinder our pressure from this like button and the extra fabric and stitching. So we are going to be pressing it this way to allow that to not be an issue. Now I want to sort of flatten this out as much as I can and go ahead and lint roll. Always smart to lint roll textiles because you just never know what's gotten on them. So I want to try and flatten it as much as possible, but I am keeping it hung off the edge. Once you have it set, we're going to go ahead and pre-press it. Now, it's always a smart idea to pre-press for at least half the time you would do your transfer press. In this case, we are looking at 385 and I have it set to 50 seconds, which is you can do 385 for 50 to 60 seconds depending on your paper. I use printer jack sublimation paper, which has a slightly faster release, so I can knock off roughly 10 to 15 seconds every time I transfer something, which is great. So we're gonna do this just about 25, 30 seconds. And then pull it on out. Kind of make sure we got a nice good flat area that we're going to be putting our transfer on. Might need to bring it in just a little bit. Okay. I'm going to stick just a little piece of tape on the top and bottom. We're nice and straight. Add on that blowout paper and pop it back in. So we are doing 385 for 50 seconds with medium firm pressure. You can see I've got my pressure set to 6 or a 7, so either of those is what will register as being accurate. And this is a pretty quick project, about 50 seconds. So items like this, I always recommend selling waffle towels in sets, but this one can definitely be sold as a single as well. I would aim to get $12.99 for a single and maybe go for $20 for a set. The profit margin is there. People love this sort of thing, and kitchen towels are really, really popular. They make great gifts as is, and again, they make great gifts as part of a gift set. So we've got just a few seconds here. I'll grab my heat glove in case it's toasty. And bring it on out for you guys. Now, while it is still hot, as soon as you get that transfer off, you want to go ahead and lint roll the whole thing to revive those little waffles, because they get easily flattened in the pressing process. So if you do this while it's still hot, it'll pop them back up. Try and go in the direction of the opposite direction of the lint roll tape makes a difference as well. And there you have it. Transfer is beautiful. It's a lovely clip art we found on Creative Fabrica. My grandmother is going to love it. So you can find the links for everything that we used today in the video description. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on any new videos. And thank you so much for joining us.